cross-examine.
May 14th of 2022, you go to Lazy Brook Road for a party at Madigan Lifer's house, correct?
Yes.
That's you to the right there in the Ole Miss football shirt,
Yes.
the light blue shirt,
Yes.
black pants, with the helmet on, right?
Yes.
That's you. You said that you got there around what time?
I want to say around 9 or 10.
9 or 10. You were there for, and you testified on direct examination, you were there for about an hour and a half, correct?
Yeah.
And people arrived at some point after an hour and a half, correct?
Yeah.
Ryan Heinz and Griffin Marcinzik, you didn't know them, right?
No.
But those are the two that showed up at Lazy Brook Road at that point, right? Yeah. And when they got to Lazy Brook Road, Jack, Tyler, and yourself confronted those two, right?
When I first got there, no.
Because Madigan Lifer didn't want anybody else in her house. So you were under the assumption that if they left, you guys could stay, right?
No, she asked everybody by the door.
I'm gonna move to strike as non-responsive as to what Madigan Lifer said.
Court is going to sustain the objection. I am going to go ahead and strike everything after the response no as unresponsive and innocent. Thank you.
So at some point in time, let me ask you this. How long was Ryan and Griffin at Lazy Brook before you, Jack, and Tyler got involved with them?
I want to say a couple of minutes.
A couple minutes, right? So they show up. Ryan walks down with his beer in his hand, right? And at some point you talk to Ryan and Griffin with Jack and Tyler, right?
Yes.
And at some point in time, you say to them, you can come in if you give me some beer, right?
I was the only one who said that.
You're the only one that said that.
Yes.
And Jack and Ryan gave you a beer, right?
He did not.
And at some point in time, it got heated between the three of you and Griffin and Ryan, right?
Just between Jack and Ryan.
And at some point in time, that went outside, right?
Yes.
So within the span of a few minutes, it went from give me a beer to going outside into the driveway, right?
Yes.
Okay. And out in the driveway, there was a group of people surrounding the area, right, from the party,
Scattered, yes.
right? And you said, I think you said on direct examination, there were about 30 people at this party. You remember saying that?
Inside, I think there was more.
Okay, so there was 30 people inside, and then there was maybe 20 outside?
No, there was probably like 10 people
There
outside.
was only 10 people outside. 10 people including you, or 10 people excluding you?
Including me.
Okay, and who was outside?
At the time, I didn't really like look at faces.
Right, you weren't paying attention, right?
Yeah.
You just kind of scanned the area, and you say, oh, there's about 10 people here, right?
No, I didn't really look around to see how many.
You have no clue who was outside then at that point. That's what you're telling us?
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't know if there were girls outside or boys outside at that point, right?
No.
You just know that there were bodies. You weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
And when you go outside, at some point there's an argument going on between Ryan and Jack, right?
Yeah.
And you're witnessing it.
Yeah.
And you're outside, in fact, with this helmet on at the time, are you not?
Yes.
And when you're outside and you're looking at this argument that is going on between Jack and Ryan, at some point in time they square up, right?
Yes.
And they square up because they're going to fight for the beer, right? Jack had taken the beer from him at that point,
Yeah.
right? And he wanted his beer back. Ryan wanted his beer back.
Yes.
And when they square up, Ryan's standing squared up to Jack. Jack's across from Ryan, right?
Yes.
And to Jack's back left is Tyler De Silva, correct?
Yes.
And behind Ryan is you, right?
Off to the side, yeah.
Right? And you're wearing that helmet at that point, right?
Yes.
And you testified on direct examination. They squared off. Heinz stepped on my foot and I pushed him. Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
You pushed him.
Yes.
I want to show you States Exhibits 58 Stop right there. So this is this person right here to the left in the blue shirt. Who's that?
Tyler Da Silva?
Can I get this? So this person right here is who?
Tyler Da Silva.
And this person in the red is who?
Jack Snyder.
So right now you're behind. We can't see you, but you're right behind Ryan Heinz, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Can you play it, please? Stop. Is that you pushing Ryan Heinz in the head?
That's me pushing Ryan Heinz, yes.
So that right there, that's a push, not a punch. That's what you're testifying. That's what you want these ladies and gentlemen to believe, that was a push, not a punch.
Yes, I remember pushing him.
Can you play the fast version, please? Or stop it there. Can you put the volume on? So right there, what you want these ladies and gentlemen to believe is that you just pushed Ryan in his head, not punched him. That's what you're telling them.
I'm saying that I remember pushing him.
But the video would contradict what you want these ladies and gentlemen to believe at this point, correct?
I remember pushing him.
But the video, that's not responsive to my question. The video does not corroborate what you just told these ladies and gentlemen of the jury, correct?
I just remember pushing him.
Non-responsive. Did you push him in the head or did you punch him in the head? You remember pushing him, but does the video show you pushing or punching him? That's my question.
I pushed him.
What does the video show?
Me pushing him?
So you want these ladies and gentlemen to believe that what just happened there is a push, not a punch, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you also told these ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at some point during this fight, you go over and you try to get Ryan off of Jack, right? Because at that point the fight was on, and Ryan tackles Jack, right?
Yes.
And your testimony was that at some point, Tyler Da Silva gets in and does the same thing, right?
Yes.
That's what you remember, right?
Yes.
But isn't it true that Tyler jumps in and also punches Ryan when he's on the ground?
I think so. I don't remember that happening.
Isn't it also true that at some point in time towards the end of this fight, you use the helmet that's on your head and you slam it into Ryan's head?
That's not true, no.
That's not true? Is that not what you remember? Or is that what you're saying is that the video is false?
I never did that.
You never did that. Okay. So let's play the rest of this video and then we'll go to the slow-mo. That's you right there in the helmet back there, right? We'll wind it a tick. Keep going. Keep going. Stop. That's you right there, right?
Yes.
And you have a helmet on, right?
I had the helmet on a lot at the time.
Play it. Okay. Now we'll play the slow motion. Now you just saw the helmet slam down on Ryan, right? And you heard the crack of the helmet on Ryan's head?
I didn't slam the helmet down on him at all.
So you want these ladies and gentlemen to believe that you did not slam the helmet into Ryan's head when he was on the ground?
Yes.
Is that what you remember, or are you saying the video is false?
I don't really see that in the video.
Okay, let's play the slow-mo version. So here's the punch, or what you're saying is a push. There you are here with the helmet, right? And here's you right in here. Ready? Slam. That's you right there slamming the helmet into Ryan's head, right?
I never slammed him with the helmet.
Okay, so the video's alive. That's what you're saying. So counsel asked you before if you ever had carried a weapon before May 14th of 2022. Isn't it true that you used the helmet as a weapon at Lazy Brook that night?
No.
At some point in time, Lifer's mother comes out and kicks everybody out, right? But that's about 15, 20 minutes after this fight is over.
Yeah.
And after that, after you guys are kicked out, you get into Jack's car, the Honda Pilot.
Yes.
And you had no idea what you were going to do, so you guys were driving over to Trumbull High School, right?
Yes.
And when you were driving over to Trumbull High School, isn't it true that during that ride, you were laughing and joking about how you just got into a fight and hurt Ryan Heinz?
No.
You never said that?
Hmm.
And as you're going over to Trumbull High School, it's you in the back seat behind Jack, right?
Yeah.
Jack's driving.
Yes.
Tyler's in the front seat.
Yes.
In the middle seat is who? Will Sinjwald, correct?
Yes.
And to the right of him is Keenan Frasick.
Yes.
Mackenzie's on your lap.
Yes.
And Dimitri's in the back.
Yes.
And when you're driving over there, you indicated on direct examination you had your phone on you at that point, right? As a matter of fact, you had your phone all night, right?
Yes.
And at some point in time, you're added to a group chat, right?
Yes.
When you go over to Trumbull High School, had the group chat already started before you get to Trumbull High School?
I believe so, yes.
Right, so you knew that because you were already added, right?
I can't remember if I got added when we got to Trumbull or on the way there.
Isn't it true that Anthony Greco added you at 11:10 p.m. on Saturday, May 14th, 2022 to the group chat?
I can't remember, but yeah.
Well, who's Anthony Greco? You know Anthony Greco, right?
Football
Play
team.
football. You went to St. Joe's with you, right?
Yes.
He was at Lazy Brook that night at some point? Did you see him at Lazy Brook?
No, I don't remember seeing him.
But he added you to this chat nevertheless, right?
Yes.
And that was at about 11:10 p.m.?
I guess so, yeah.
And you indicated on direct examination you were on your phone, checking the text group messages, you're talking to Will Sinjwald next to you, and you're talking to Mackenzie, right?
Yes.
And while you were doing all those things, you also had an opportunity to see that Jack was on his phone also, right?
Yes.
And you saw that Tyler was on his phone, right?
Yeah.
And when you get to Trumbull High School, how long are you there for? About 20 minutes?
I can't remember exactly how long we were there for.
When you get to Trumbull High School, you have a conversation with Jack and Tyler about fighting these kids at Trumbull High School, correct?
Oh, never.
Isn't it true that you were in the group chat telling kids to come show up to Trumbull High School to fight?
Yes. I remember telling them to come to Trumbull High.
Right. Because you, in this group chat, you're saying Trumbull High, slide. Right now, RN, right now, Trumbull High, slide, right?
Yes.
Because at that point, you wanted to meet those kids to fight, right?
No, we were about to be leaving Trumbull, and at the time I thought it would be funny.
So you wanted to meet those kids at Trumbull High School to fight, right?
No.
So at some point in time, you leave Trumbull High School,
Yes.
and before you leave Trumbull High School, you're again asking them, Trumbull High, slide, right? Slide means come here.
Yeah.
And at some point in time, you're in the group chat and you realize that the other kids are talking about an address, right? They said, we're going to drop the Addy, right? Does that mean address?
You're saying the other kids were saying that?
Yeah, people were
Yeah.
talking about giving you an address. Someone was saying, we'll drop the Addy, right? You remember hearing that, seeing that in the group chat?
No, I remember just seeing the address.
Okay. Do you recall when someone indicated that we dropped the Addy, you said send it in the group chat?
No, I don't remember that.
May approach the witness, Your Honor. But looking at the document helped to refresh your recollection?
Yeah.
That's you, right? Do you remember it refreshed?
It says my name, but I don't see the number.
Somebody else have your phone that night?
I don't
Somebody
remember.
else you know named Lito?
I don't remember now.
No. So do you recall asking for the address in the group chat that says send it?
No.
You don't recall that?
No.
Are you saying that this is not you in the group chat?
It says my name, but there's no number.
Okay. Again, at some point in time later in the group chat, you say Laurel Glen, correct?
No.
You don't? May approach the witness. Would looking at a document help to refresh your recollection?
Sure, yeah.
Lito, does that refresh your recollection?
Again, it says my name, but not my number.
So let me ask you this, Mr.
Did it refresh your recollection, yes or no?
No?
So let me ask you this. You recall being added to the group chat by Anthony Greco at 11:10 p.m. on May 14th of 2022, correct?
Yes.
You recall that.
Yes.
And you also recall telling the kids to slide to Trumbull High School, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you recall whether or not your name was Lito in the group chat?
When you join a group chat, it's just your number.
It's just your number. But if somebody has your number, your name in their phone, it would say your name, correct?
Pretty sure it would still be just a number.
But would looking at a document help to refresh your recollection as to whether or not you told people to slide over to Trumbull?
No, I knew I said that.
You knew you said that, right? So if we had a group chat with your name on it, and that is corroborated in here that you told them to slide, wouldn't it also be true that if your name is in this group chat subsequent and you told them to drop the address, send it, that would also be you? Or is there two Litos that you know of?
I can't see the number. It just says my name.
Right. So wouldn't it stand to reason that Lito is you in the group chat?
I guess so, yeah.
You just don't recall saying these things, right? That's your testimony today?
I only ever remember saying the Trumbull High thing.
Right. You don't recall asking them to send their address at Laurel Glen. That's what your testimony is, right?
Yeah.
And you don't recall reiterating the address that was sent, Laurel Glen. You say Laurel Glen, right? You actually say it twice in the group chat, but you don't recall that, right?
No.
That's your testimony today?
Yes.
And then at some point in time, you make your way from Trumbull High School over to 43 Laurel Glen, which is Tyler Rich's house, right?
Yes.
You didn't know it at the time, but that's Tyler Rich's house. You've met Tyler Rich before?
Yes.
Where have you met him before?
Parties?
What kind of parties?
High school parties?
Have you ever been to high school parties in the Berries? You know where the Berries are in Shelton?
No.
No, you don't? You ever recall going to a party on Mulberry, Strawberry, Edelberry, any type of street with a Berry last name in Shelton? You ever recall seeing Ricky Fiola at those parties?
Yeah, I've been to parties in Shelton.
Right. And you ever recall seeing Matt Lockovich at those parties?
Yes.
Yeah, you've met him before, right? As a matter of fact, you've had a fight with Matt Lockovich a week before this incident, correct? At one of those parties?
No, never.
So you drive over from Trumbull High School, and you indicate a couple cars were there when you got to 43 Laurel Glen, right?
Can you repeat that?
When you drove over from Trumbull High School and you got to 43 Laurel Glen, you indicated on direct examination there were a couple of cars there, right?
Yeah.
We pulled up and saw girls from St. Joe's High School. Oh, I'm sorry, withdrawn. You indicated that when you got there, you saw other cars parked in the street, right?
Yes.
And there wasn't that many people outside at first, right? I noticed a few kids, right? Isn't that what you said on direct examination?
Yeah, not that I could see at first.
And at some point, people came out of the house, right?
Like everyone came out of the house.
Right. And people came out of the house because you texted them in the group chat, "We here," right?
No.
Do you recall doing that?
No.
Would looking at a document help to refresh your recollection?
Sure.
May approach the witness, Your Honor. Your memory refreshed?
Yeah, I never said that.
So somebody else had your phone at that point.
No, again, it says my name, but not my number.
So there's another person named Lito in the group chat.
Anybody can name anybody they want in the group chat.
But you would agree with me that in the group chat it says, from Lito, we hear, right?
It just says Lito.
And then it says, we hear, right?
Yes.
So at that point in time, people come out of the house, right?
Yes.
And when the people come out of the house, what time of night would you say it was when people came out of the house when you were in front of 43 Laurel Glen?
I can't remember.
You don't remember, but it was dark out.
Yeah.
It was late.
Yes.
Clearly after 11, right?
Yes.
Probably sometime before 11:30-ish.
I don't know.
You don't recall?
No.
And you indicated that you saw people come out, and there were about 30 people that came out at that point, right?
That I could see, yeah, but I know there was more.
You knew there were more? How did you know there were more?
There was people behind those 30 people.
There was people behind the 30 people. So you counted each and every one of those people that came outside?
No, it's just an estimate.
It's just an estimate, right? So there could have been 20, right?
It looked like way more than 20 people.
Right, but it could have been 20, right?
Yeah.
So at some point in time, you indicate that Snyder stopped his car, saw a yard and kids coming out to the car, right?
Yes.
And by the way, at some point in time, you leave the chat at like 11:32 p.m. Do you recall doing that?
Yes, that was before we arrived at the house.
Before you arrived at the house. So you left the chat, according to the chat, Lito left the conversation. You recall that happened?
Yes.
Okay. So you recall getting in the conversation, you recall getting out of the conversation, you only recall a few things that you said, but you think the other person named Lito in the conversation could be somebody else.
I remember why I left.
That mischaracterizes the testimony. He has not said he believes there's another person named Lito in the group chat.
So you recall saying some things in the chat, you just don't recall saying everything in the chat. Is that a fair statement of your testimony?
I only ever said the things about Trumbull High School.
Okay, so the other things that are in the chat, that would be inaccurate, according to you.
Yes.
Okay. So you were going over there to fight, correct?
No.
And when you got there, kids surrounded the car, right?
Yes.
And you indicated that on direct examination, there were rows of people, 10, then maybe 30, right?
Yes.
Jack was talking, Tyler was talking because kids had approached the car at that point.
Yes.
You indicated kids you knew were there because you texted them in the group chat, right?
Never said that.
You said that on direct examination, right?
No. I said my window was up when all the kids came. When I recognized a few people, I put my window down.
And who did you recognize?
Ricky Fiola, Nikki DeJesus, and Aiden King.
So you spoke to Aiden King when he came next to the car at that point, right?
I spoke to all three of them.
Right. And you told Aiden King at some point when it got aggressive that tell your friends to get away from the car. I'm going to break a bottle over somebody's head.
No, I never said that.
And there were a few kids shouting at Jack at some point, right?
Yes.
And it became aggressive, according to you?
Yes.
But at first it was a peaceful conversation, right? According to you? Peaceful?
Mine was,
And
yes.
it got aggressive?
Yes.
But you didn't see anybody throw anything at that point, right?
No.
And then you indicated on direct examination you couldn't see anybody outside. So you only saw the three people you knew, Aiden, Ricky, and who was the third?
Nikki DeJesus.
So Nikki, Aiden, and Ricky you saw. That's it.
Yes.
You couldn't hear any threats, right?
I heard them screaming, but
But you couldn't hear any threats, right?
I couldn't make out what they were saying.
And at some point you indicated on direct examination people were hitting the car on all sides, right?
Yeah, before that happened, somebody punched Jack in the face.
I'm going to move to strike as non-responsive.
Sustained. Court's going to strike the witness's response after yeah. Okay, so the rest of that response, please strike from your notebooks if you took notes on it. It's not to be considered evidence. Okay.
So you indicated on direct examination people hitting the car on all sides, correct?
Yes.
And all I heard was banging, right?
Yes.
Didn't hear glass shattering, right?
No, I don't think so.
And the car began to rock, right?
Yes.
You indicated on direct examination you were panicking, right?
Yes.
This was never like anything you've been through before, right? This was scary, right?
Yes.
And at that point, you couldn't get out, right? You said that on direct.
There was no way to get out, no.
Because there were so many people, right?
Yes.
And at some point, you thought to yourself, this is not a good idea, right, to be here?
I just remember being scared. My girlfriend was crying. And I remember telling Jack to drive.
To drive, right? So Jack drove down the street, right?
Yes.
And when Jack drove down the street, at some point he stopped, right?
Yes.
At some point, was Jack driving up and down the street? You remember Jack driving up and down the street?
I don't remember that, no.
You don't remember that? Could have happened, but you don't remember?
Yeah, no, I don't remember that.
You don't remember. But at some point in time, he drives down the street, right? State Exhibit 1, you indicate that Jack drives down the street and at some point stops in front of the house near where we previously identified it as 36 Laurel Glen, correct?
Yes.
And it's at that moment that that Mackenzie gets out of the car
Yes.
and she's walking away,
Yes.
and then you get out of the car at some point, right?
Yes, right after.
While you're getting out of the car, you're pissed off, and you say, holy shit, they really f***ed up your car, Jack. Give me the knife. Where's the knife? Give me the knife, right?
No. Immediately after I got out, or Mackenzie got out.
A move to strike is non-responsive. Everything after no.
Court is going to go ahead and strike the response after the witness indicated the word no. Please discard that from your notes. Thank you.
Now, you get out of the car with the knife, correct, at this point?
No.
Because according to you, on direct examination, Jack gave you the knife when you got out of the car at that point, correct?
Yes.
So you did get out of the car with the knife at this point, right? When
I was
Jack,
not-
Objection, Your Honor. That mischaracterizes the testimony. He did not testify that he got out of with the knife.
So the witness indicated yes. I'm going to go back to the last question. I'm going to hear the last question again.
so Jack gave you the knife when you got out of the car, correct?
I was already outside of the car, yes.
And he gave you the knife at that point, right?
Yes.
And he gave you the knife when you got out of the car, at that point when the car initially stopped, right? Car stops, you get out, you get the knife, right?
Yes.
So you're in possession of the knife when you initially get out of the car on May 14th of 2022, right?
Objection, Your Honor. I think that mischaracterizes the testimony.
Yes, sustained.
When you get out of the car stops in front of 36 Laurel Glen. You get out of the car, right?
After Mackenzie, yes.
Mackenzie's walking down the street, right?
Yes.
And when you're out of the car, Jack gives you the knife, right?
Tosses it at me, yes.
Right. And at some point after that, Tyler DeSilva gets out of the car and walks around the car towards you, right?
No, Tyler DeSilva was already next to me when that happened.
So it's your testimony that Tyler was next to you when Jack throws you the knife. That's your testimony.
As I remember it, yeah.
So I'm going to show you states 44 here. This is states 44. This person right here, standing right here with the dark pants and the shirt, is that you? Can you see where I'm pointing? Is that you out of the car?
Yes.
So you're in front of the car, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And at some point we see Tyler DeSilva get out of the car and walk next to you, right?
Yes.
So your testimony is as Jack's driving up the street, he tosses you the knife at this point?
Yes. And you can see
I would
at one point he stopped.
everything after yes.
Pause for a yes or no answer. I'm going to strike everything after yes, ladies and gentlemen, the jury, so please make notation accordingly.
And by the way, when Jack gives you the knife, do you catch it? Does
No.
it fall?
It fell.
It shall. Okay.
Yes.
Play.
That's when it falls.
There's no question.
Stop. Stop. So thank you. So we didn't see you bend down to pick anything up, correct?
I bent down to pick it up when I
You
was.
had to strike everything after. No.
Court is calling this tray. The witness's response after no.
So at this point in time, in States 44, you're in possession of the knife at this point, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. Stop. Now these are the kids from 43 Laurel Glen that just ran down towards you, right?
Yes.
When they came down the street, did they have any weapons on them?
I didn't look to see if they had any weapons.
But you didn't see any weapons, right?
I didn't look to see if they had any weapons.
They didn't have any weapons on them, right?
I didn't look to see if they had any weapons.
So you didn't see any weapons on them that night, right?
I didn't look. How would I?
So at this point in time, there's no fighting going on down there, right?
No.
And after this video stops, no fight occurs down this end of the street, right?
As they ran down, we said.
Yes or no answer. No fight happens after this video stops, right? No physical altercation happens down this end of the street, correct?
No.
Right. So you have the knife. You don't see anybody else with a weapon. Jack drives off. Mackenzie's down the other end of the street, right? She's at the corner of farmhouse in Laurel Glen.
Yes.
And Dimitri, Will, and Keenan are still in the car as the car drives away, right?
Yes.
So when Jack gave you the knife, they were in the vicinity of seeing that happen, correct?
They were in the car.
Right. Can you play the second one? So again, this is a different angle, right? Mackenzie's walking down the street, and this is you out here, just above this bush on the right side. And here comes Tyler walking to your right, right? So car drives away. You have the knife at this point, right?
Yes.
Tyler Rich runs up to you, right? Is that Tyler Rich that ran up the street, do you recall?
I saw like two kids run past.
Do you recall them throwing something at the car?
Yes.
Recall who that was?
No.
Stop. So at some point, do you recall who ran down the street?
Like in total?
No, I'm asking first if you were familiar with anybody who ran down the street at that point.
Yes.
Ricky Fiola, right?
Yes.
Tyler Rich.
Yes.
Are you familiar with Ty Wood?
Yes.
Did he run down the street?
I can't remember seeing him.
Charlie Connery, are you familiar with him?
No.
You're not familiar with him. Do you know? So you don't know that the person that testified for the state as our last witness. You can't recall if he ran down the street.
No, I didn't see him.
But there were about 7 kids that ran down the street, right?
I don't know exactly how many.
Or was there more than 7 or less than 7?
I'm not sure.
You would agree with me there was more than 3 kids, right? Clearly in the video there's more than 3 kids from the shelter party,
Yes.
right? And would you also agree with me that after this particular part of the video ends, there's a whole interaction that happens down the end of the street that's not captured on video, right?
Yes.
And that interaction that's happening is you having the knife, right?
Yeah, it's in my pocket.
You have this interaction with Tyler Rich, right?
Yes, he sprays me with
And he sprays you with the WD-40, right?
Yes.
And at some point in time, shortly after that happens, Ricky Fiola comes and talks to you, right?
Like right after, yes.
Right. Because in your words, you indicated that he came up to me, talked to me, made me feel better about the situation, right? because you had just gotten sprayed, right?
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, between the time you were in the car when you got to 43 Laurel Glen, up until the time where you spoke to Ricky Fiola, the people at that party indicated to you they didn't want you at the house. You were supposed to leave, right?
I guess so, yeah.
So when you spoke to Ricky, not what he said, but during your conversation, pretty much said you should not be here, you should leave, right?
No.
So he actually said you should stay?
He was talking bad about Tyler Rich.
Right. And then he said you guys should probably just leave, right?
No, he never said that.
He never said that. He said probably you should just hang out in the corner and, figure it out, right?
I can tell you what he said.
Well, I don't want to know what he said. But the reality is, the conversation you had with Ricky Fiola was, hey, I was really messed up that he sprayed me with WD-40. But look, there's a lot of us and there's only a few of you guys. It's not smart. You probably should just leave. Are you saying that conversation didn't happen?
That's not what he said.
Okay. So, but nevertheless, these 3, 4, or 5 kids that run down the street, including Tyler Rich, they do not engage you in a physical altercation down the street, correct?
Just sprayed me with WD-40.
And walked away then, right?
Yeah.
He walked back to his house, right?
Yes.
And when he walked back to his house, you guys stayed down the street for a little bit, right?
Yes.
And so your testimony today is you were never told to leave the area?
I've never heard anybody say that. Ricky Fiola 100% didn't say that.
And at that point, you said on direct examination, you were scared and confused, right?
Yes.
Terrified about the group of people that were down the road, right?
Just everything.
And you were scared even when the people walked down the street, right? When they came down the street towards Farmhouse Road, that scared you?
When they were running at us, yes.
You were panicked?
Yeah.
You were concerned?
Yes.
You had your phone on you at that point, right?
Most likely, yes.
Most likely, right. So, at any point between the time you got out of the car and the time the kids ran down the street, you never called for somebody to give you a ride home, right?
No, Mackenzie's sister was going to give me a ride.
And you never called for an Uber, right? To bring you out of that situation, right?
Mackenzie's sister was going to give me a ride home.
And you never called for a lift, right? Because Mackenzie's sister was coming to pick you up?
Yes.
So Mackenzie's sister was going to pick you up at the corner of Farmhouse Road and Laurel Glen, right?
Yes.
You knew that because you had a conversation with Mackenzie about getting a ride home.
Yes.
Because on direct examination, you indicated that you walked over to Mackenzie and said, hey, listen, can I get a ride home? I don't want to be here anymore, right?
I don't remember my exact words, but I remember asking her for a ride.
Because you were concerned.
Yes.
You wanted to get out of that situation.
Yeah.
Mackenzie had her head down, right?
Yes.
She was on her phone. Safe to say she wasn't paying attention to things going on around her?
Yes.
Isn't it true Mackenzie was mad at you at that point because she didn't want to go to Tyler Rich's house and you didn't stick up for her?
No, she initially started crying and got upset when they were hitting the car.
And by the way, the state called 25 witnesses in this case, right?
Yes.
And you were here for all 25 of those witnesses, right?
Yes.
And the story you're telling us today is the first time we've heard this story, right?
I was never asked by anybody to tell me
I'm
some of the
going to
story.
move to strike as non-responsive.
So the court's going to go ahead and strike the witness's response to the question as being non-responsive. Call for yes or no.
So this is the first time we're hearing this story, correct?
Yes.
And Mackenzie knew a lot of those kids at that house, right? You knew that.
Yes.
And she didn't want to be there, right?
After they started hitting the car, she started crying.
Right. And at some point in time after this video ends, Will gets out of the car, right?
Yes.
And Keenan gets out of the car, right?
Yes.
And Dimitri gets out of the car, right?
Yes.
And at some point in time, they sit down at the corner because they're waiting for a ride, right?
I remember them sitting around Mackenzie at one point.
But you were not under the impression that they were also waiting for Mackenzie's sister?
The only person I knew that was waiting for a ride, definitely was Will Singemore because he was calling his girlfriend.
Because his girlfriend, Carolyn Takis, was coming to get him, right?
Yes.
Right. So as far as you were concerned, Carolyn was coming to get Will, and Dimitri and Keenan had no ride home at that point? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
But nevertheless, Will, Keenan, Dimitri, and Mackenzie don't get back in the car with Jack at some point, right?
Can you say that again?
At some point in time, Jack, you, and De Silva get in the car and go back down to 43 Laurel Glen, right?
Yes.
Right. But when that happens, Will doesn't get in the car, right?
Nobody else gets in the car.
Right. Mackenzie doesn't get in the car, right?
Nobody else got.
Dimitri doesn't get in the car, right? And neither does Keenan, right? Because they didn't want to get involved with what was going to happen, right?
Because they were asked not to.
I'm going to move to strike as non-responsive. Ask that he answer in a yes or no.
We're going to go ahead and strike witness's last response to the question called for a yes or no answer. Please remove it from the room.
So they didn't get in the car because they didn't want to be involved with what was going to happen, correct?
No.
And at some point in time, you indicate that you say Tyler's your best friend, right? Growing up, you met him since 8 years old?
Yes.
And Jack was only just an acquaintance from St. Joe's, right? You weren't really friends with him?
Not as close as Tyler.
Right. But you all hung out, right?
Yes.
And you all would go to parties together on the weekends, right?
Yes.
You guys were football buddies, right?
Yeah, we all played football. Yeah.
In fact, it wasn't uncommon for Jack to pick you and Tyler up and go to a party, right?
He was always the one that drove.
He was always the one that drove, right? And when you guys are in school, you guys would always hang out and talk, right?
At football practice, not really.
At football. So you didn't associate with Jack in school, just in football practice? Is that
We
what?
never had any of the same classes.
Okay. So you never saw him in the hallway and said, "Hey, Jack, what's up?" So you associated with him, right? But Jack was always the one that drove you guys. It wasn't Tyler, right?
Not always, but if we were going out with Jack, he was driving.
But you went out with him a lot, is the point, right? Whenever you would go out, it would be you, Tyler, and Jack, right?
No.
No? Even though Jack always drove, majority of the time?
Jack always drove when we went out with him.
Okay, but you didn't go out with him a lot? That's what you're saying now? Okay. So at some point in time, there's a conversation. You say on direct examination, there's a conversation between Jack and Tyler in this area, right? You don't know what the conversation's about?
It was something
I don't want to know what it was about. Do you know what it was about, or yes or no?
somewhat. Yes.
You know somewhat what it was about. So, and based on that information, you were still scared,
Yes.
and you were still concerned, and you were still worried about what could happen.
Yes.
And at some point in time, Jack gets in the car,
Yes.
Tyler gets in the car,
Yes.
and you get in the car,
Yes.
and you're still concerned,
Yes.
right? And you go back down to 43 Laurel Glen, right?
Yes.
Because you're still concerned, right?
My best friend was going. I was going with.
Non-responsive. I would ask them, that should be stricken.
It's going to strike the witness's response as non-responsive, called for a yes or no. Thank you.
So, at some point in time, you get in the car with Jack and Tyler, correct?
Yes.
And you are going to go back to 43 Laurel Glen, right?
Yes.
And you're going to go and talk to some kids that had just damaged the car, right?
Yes.
Threw stuff at the car, right?
Yes.
Bounced on the car, right?
Yes.
Almost withdrawn. Did these things for about a 30 to 40 second period, right? When you were initially in front of 43 Laurel Glen?
I don't know how long it was.
Was it fast? Was it fast interaction or was it slow interaction?
I can't remember.
But nevertheless, these are the kids that damaged the car, right?
Yes.
And you were going back to talk to them, right?
Yes.
These are the same kids, right, that you said you were very concerned about,
Yes.
you were very worried about,
Yes.
you were panicking when this was going on, right?
Yes.
But you went back to 43 Laurel Glen, right?
Yes.
You could have stayed at the corner of Farmhouse Road and Laurel Glen and waited for Mackenzie's sister to pick you up, right?
back, that's what we should have done.
Move to strike as non-responsive.
We'll go ahead and strike the witness's response as non-responsive. Question called for a yes or no answer.
You could have stayed at the corner of Laurel Glen and Farmhouse Road, correct?
Yes.
But you didn't do that, did you?
No.
And you got back in that car with the knife,
Yes.
and you indicated on direct examination you were scared to get back in the car, right?
Yes.
But you did it anyway.
Yes.
And you didn't have to go back to that house, did you? So you get back to the house, right? And you get out of the car, right?
Yes.
Case 52. I may approach the witness, Your Honor. Jack drives the car and stops the car right about here on States 52 in front of his mailbox, right? Is that in the middle of the road? Right, there's a car parked here, right? He stops right about here, right?
No, it was really close.
How close to the car? Did you open the door?
I wasn't on that side.
Right, but you were on that side at one point, then, like, working. Yes. So you could open the door, right?
Yes.
Right. So the car was closer to the center of the road, right?
Yes.
And Tyler gets out of the front passenger seat, right? He walks around the car and onto the grass, right?
Yes.
You saw this, right?
Yes.
You got out of the rear passenger seat on Jack's side, right?
Yes.
And you walk around the car, and you never lost sight of Tyler, correct?
Yes.
So you look at him over the SUV, right? That's what your testimony is?
No, I went around.
You went around the SUV because you just said that you didn't lose sight of him. So you looked over the SUV to see where Tyler was, right? So my point is, you didn't see him in the car, right? You just walked around the car, then you made contact with Tyler again, right?
Yes.
Right. And Tyler was on the left. Tyler was in this area at some point, on the left, right? You were on the right.
I met him on the grass.
You met him here?
No, a little in front of it. Like
Well,
right where the curve is.
Right here.
Yeah. I went to the left. Okay.
So you were on the left. I mean, Tyler was on the left, you were on the right, right?
Yes.
You walked up together, right?
Yes.
And when you initially got there, there were like 10 people in the yard, right?
I can't remember exactly how many. We were first approached by Lily Lombardi.
You indicated on direct examination there were people in the yard, right?
Yes.
You said 10 people at first in the back, correct?
Around there?
They were far back, right?
Yeah.
Close to where that little hole is in the, where they came out of?
It was really dark.
It was really dark, you couldn't see, right? And you didn't recognize anybody at that point, right?
They were too far away.
And you had the knife in your pocket when you got out, right?
Yes.
When people started coming out of the house, were there girls that came out of the house also?
The first person we spoke to was a girl. Before all those people came.
Was there more than one girl at the house? Do you recall?
I don't remember.
Well, Lily Lombardi, right? Taylor Capella was there.
I didn't see her.
Do you know Taylor Capella? Are you saying there was only one girl at the party that night?
I'm saying I only saw her and spoke to one girl.
You only spoke to one girl, but you don't know if there were other girls later on in the evening that were outside watching, right? There could have been. You just don't know. And you said at some point 30 kids come out, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
We were approached by Rich and everybody else. There were 30 people, right?
No, at first it was around 30 people, and then everybody came out.
And how many of those people were girls?
I didn't see any girls.
You didn't see any girls? So there could have been girls in the back, you just don't know.
Yeah.
And when they came out, you recognized only Tyler Rich, right?
Yeah.
And you had your conversation with Tyler Rich. So you just stood there?
Yeah.
And Ryan Heinz approached you?
Yeah.
And you had a conversation with Ryan Heinz?
Yes.
And that was the kid that you had pushed in the head, according to your testimony, earlier that night at Lazy Brook, correct?
Yes.
And you were next to Tyler when this was happening?
Yes.
And you indicated on direct examination there were a wall of people at some point in front of you, right?
Yes.
Right? And initially it was, De Silva was talking to about 10 people. You said that on direct, remember that?
Like there was, all of them were all together, but he was directly talking.
So it was like a line of people. It was you, this is Tyler, this is you, and there's a line of people in front of you, right? And there's about 10 people. Giant group of people. And when you're talking to these people, you're asking where Aiden King is, right?
I asked Ryan Heinz, I was like, where's Aiden King? That's my boy.
That's your what?
My boy, like my friend.
That's your friend?
Yeah.
You heard Aiden King testify in this case, right?
Yes.
You heard him testify that you said, tell the people to get away from the car, I'm going to smash a bottle on somebody's head, right?
Yeah, he said that.
And you indicated on direct examination that you were speaking with 4 to 5 people, right?
Yeah.
You were speaking with Ryan Heinz,
Yeah.
Ty Wood. You remember Ty Wood? Do you know who Ty Wood is? You know who Ty Wood is? You don't recall seeing him there that night?
I was mainly talking with Ryan Heinz.
And Faison Teal was close by at this point?
I believe so, yes.
And so at some point, were there other people that you recognized there at the time besides Ty Wood, Ryan Heinz, and Tyler Rich?
There was a giant group of people. There were so many faces.
But you don't know everybody that was there.
No.
And the knife was in your pocket at this point.
Yes.
And the people you were talking with didn't have any weapons on them, right?
Not that I saw, no.
And you were getting nervous.
Yes.
And you recall at some point, so at the end of your testimony yesterday on direct examination, you indicated that there were 4 to 5 people that you were speaking with, but then today when you started testifying, you indicated there was 20 to 25 people just on you. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So was it 4 to 5 people or 20 to 25 people?
They were all together. It's not like it was only 4 who came up and talked to us. Or they were all together.
And when you're walking up to Tyler Rich's house, they're telling you to leave the property, right?
No.
And when you're walking up to Tyler Rich's house, you see the kids start coming out of the house, right?
Yes.
And at that point, you could have turned around and went back to the car, right?
Yes.
But you didn't do that, right? And at some point, you indicated there were people everywhere, right? And people were saying stuff, right? It was aggressive. People were arguing. You were arguing back. Tyler was arguing back. And you indicated you were smaller at the time, right? Much smaller than you are today?
Yes.
Right. But you felt like you were okay at that point because you had a knife on you, right?
No.
So you approached kids that had just thrown stuff at the car, right?
Yes.
That had dented the car, right?
Yes.
That had jumped and bounced and rocked the car, right?
Yes.
And you were panicked because of it, and you were worried, and you approached these kids at that point at Tyler's house with a knife in your pocket, correct?
Yes.
And at some point in time, you make a move towards Ty Wood, correct? You flinch like you're going to hit somebody, right? And when that happens, you get punched by Tyler Rich, right?
I stuck my hand up for somebody to shake hands.
I would move to strike as non-responsive.
Court's going to strike the portion of the witness's response after no. Okay, so anything after no to the question, please strike from your notes. That's not to be considered evidence.
And at some point you get hit in the head, right? On the left side of your head, right? And you don't know who punched you, do you? You know now who punched you, right? But at the time you did not know who punched you, right? Isn't it true that you thought you got hit in the head with a bottle at that point?
Yeah.
But it wasn't a bottle, right?
I don't know.
Right. And you indicated on direct examination at that point everything went black. How long would you say it went black for?
It's impossible to tell. I have no idea.
You have no idea how so maybe it was like 2 seconds
Or longer.
or longer? How long? How long?
There's no way to tell.
No way to tell. And your face was in the ground. And all you saw were people hitting and kicking you, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't see any weapons, right?
No, I just saw the ground.
And the knife was in your pocket.
Yeah.
And at some point, people were yelling, right?
They were yelling. Yeah.
And people were you couldn't see, but people were all around you. That was your testimony on direct, right? People were all around you, but you couldn't see. So how were you able to see if people were all around you if your head was in the ground?
Before they hit me, they started like circling me.
But when you were in the ground and you were in the fetal position, you couldn't see who was around you, right?
No, I just felt
You couldn't tell if there was one person engaging you, right?
it was way more than one.
Could you tell if it was one person that was engaging you at that point?
It was way more than
Do
one.
you have eyes in the back of your head?
I can feel
Do you have eyes in the back of your head?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
Mr. Valle, you indicated on direct examination that your head was in the ground, right?
yes.
And you were down on the ground looking at the ground, right?
Yes.
And when your head is down on the ground, could you tell if there were two people engaging you?
I could tell there was way more than two.
Could you tell if there was one person engaging you?
I could tell there was way more than one.
Could you tell if there were three people?
I could tell there was way more than
Could you tell if there were four people?
I could tell there was way more
How
than
many people did you see? How many people did you see engage you when you were on the ground looking at the ground?
I just felt stuff coming from everywhere.
So you couldn't tell how many, correct?
Yes.
And you still had the knife on you at that point.
Yes.
And you indicated on direct examination that you lost consciousness. How long would you say you lost consciousness for?
There's no way to tell. I
There's
don't-
no way to tell. So you blacked out, right?
Yeah,
And you lost consciousness, right?
I was at the same time.
That was at the same time. But you don't know how long it was. Would you agree with me that the fight on the video doesn't capture the entire fight, right?
Nah, not anywhere close to it.
The video is about 17 seconds long, right? And the fight in its entirety is probably about 25 to 30 seconds long, right?
No,
No? It's longer than that? What's it, like 5 minutes?
no.
How long would you say it was?
It's impossible to tell, especially when you're like in this situation.
45 seconds?
I felt.
It felt like an eternity, though, right? But it was about 45 seconds.
I don't know how long.
You don't know how long it was. But you lost consciousness at some point during that whole altercation, right? And you don't know how long you lost consciousness for. And at some point when you regained consciousness, you took the knife out of your pocket, right?
Yeah.
Now, when the knife was in your pocket, it was closed, right? So you had to take the knife out of your pocket, right? Your right pocket. You had to open the knife, right?
My other hand was covering my head.
Showing you States 95. Picture of is a replica of the knife that you had that night, correct?
I never looked at it.
You never looked at it, but it was a knife that opened in this manner, correct? You had to open the knife.
I don't even remember opening it.
You don't remember opening it. Well, was the knife opened in your right pocket when it was in your pocket?
I don't think so. No.
No. So if this was the knife, or if this is a copy of what the knife looked like, it would have been closed in your pocket, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So when you're on the ground, you stick your right hand in your pocket, you take the knife out of your pocket, correct? And then you proceed to open the knife, right?
No, I don't remember. My other hand, I remember, was the whole time holding my head.
So you opened that knife with one hand?
Yes.
You recall doing that?
No, I don't remember opening the knife.
And when you take the knife out, you have it in your hand, your right hand, right?
Yes.
And you have it in your hand like this, in your fist.
Yeah.
And the blade is up this way,
Yes.
right? And you say on direct examination you were flailing your arms. Do you remember saying that? And you indicated that you were swinging the knife, right?
Yeah.
Show you states 56. This is Ryan Heinz. You remember Ryan Heinz from that night?
Yeah.
This is the kid that you say you pushed at Lazy Brook and then did not slam in the head with your helmet. Remember that?
Yes.
He's got a lot of facial injuries. Would you agree?
No.
No? States 83. Would you agree, Mr. Valle, that Mr. Hines has contusions on his head, correct?
I see the one on the top of his head.
You don't see the ones on the side of his head? You don't see that his nose is broken here?
That, on the side, it just looks like acne.
States 84. You see the contusion on his head?
Yes.
That wasn't caused by your helmet? Did you do that at 43 Laurel Glen?
No.
So somebody else must have done that.
Yeah, I guess.
You have the knife in your hand, and you have it in the fist, right? States 87. And you stab Ryan Heinz in his chest and puncture his lung, correct?
Yes.
Like this, right?
Wasn't aiming or anything.
And you stab him in the side. States 89, right? That's not a swipe. Would you agree? That's a stab wound, right?
I was flailing my arm around.
That was a stab wound, right?
I was flailing my arm around.
So you're indicating that this is a swipe?
Objection, Your Honor. I think that mischaracterizes the testimony.
Sustained.
States 91. You were flailing your arms. He stabbed it again in the left side, correct?
Yeah.
So he stabbed 3 times, right?
Yes.
States 54, Faison Teal. You remember seeing him there that night, right?
I think so.
And you stabbed him, State 70, once in the upper extremity, in his left arm, right?
Yes.
While you were flailing your arms.
Yes.
That's about an inch or so, right? And at some point, they let you go, right?
Oh.
And when they let you go, at that point, Tommy Connery comes over, right? Because Ryan Heinz is now out of it because you just stabbed him 3 times, right?
They never let go of
And
anybody.
Tommy Connery comes over. Remember Tommy Connery? States 55? That's Tommy Connery, right?
Yeah.
And you're down on the ground, right? You're bent over, right? No, you're not bent over.
It's on the ground.
You're on the ground. And you go after Tommy Connery, States 77, and you stab him 4 times in his leg, correct?
I didn't go after anybody.
And at some point in time, you're chased out into the street, right?
Yeah.
And you fall down. You said, according to your direct testimony, is you fall and you skin your hands on the ground.
That was after.
That was after. that was the second time, not the first time. But at some point in time, you go out into the street, right? And we see that in the video, correct?
Yeah, I got thrown like towards the car.
Right. And you run back to the car, right?
Yes.
And you run back to the car, and you go to get in the car, right?
I,
No one chased you to the car, correct?
Yes, I did.
They did. Okay, let's play. Let's play the play the slow.
Is this Exhibit 60?
This is Exhibit 60. I need
Yes, sir!
Stop it. Who's this person right here running back to the car? Who's chasing them?
If you back it up a little bit, you see all those people, right?
No, they stopped. Back it up. Back it up. Back it up. Right here, right? These kids right here?
Yeah.
They're chasing you? They stopped. Right?
I didn't look backwards.
But they stopped, right? The video shows that they're stopped here at this point, right? They're not chasing you up to the car, right?
The camera turns.
Play it again. Just keep playing. That's you, right?
Yes.
And you're at the car by yourself? Stop it. Do you see any kids coming now from your left side if they're chasing you?
I didn't look that way.
But in the video, they're not chasing you, right?
I didn't look that way.
My question to you is, in the video, they're not chasing you to the car, right?
No?
No. They play it. Stop. Now, at this point, the kids are retreating back onto the property, right?
I was just looking for Tyler.
So the answer to my question is you didn't see where the kids were retreating back to that, right?
I just looked for Tyler.
But they didn't come after you at the car, right?
I just looked for Tyler. I don't know.
I would move to strike as non-responsive.
Court will strike the witness's last response.
You indicated on direct examination that you were thrown into the car. You remember testifying to that?
I was pushed towards the car.
But the video doesn't show you being thrown into the car, does it?
I guess not.
Now, at some point in time, you say you saw Tyler back on the lawn, right?
Yeah.
You still had the knife on you at that point, right? The knife was still out in your hand, right? And you come back into the fight, right?
Yeah.
Now, Tyler's being pushed into the street at this point, right?
Yes.
And you would agree with me that there are no Shelton kids to the right of you, right? There's a car. We can see a car right there, right?
And there's kids like right
There's kids in front of you,
to the right. Yes.
but there's no kids right to the right of you. There's a car. We can see the car. If there were, we wouldn't be able to see the car, right?
That's the street.
Right. There's nobody to the right of you, right? There's a kid in front of you.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of kids right
Right. There's a whole bunch of kids over here we can't see, but there's nobody to the right of you, right?
there. There's a kid right next to him.
There's a kid here. But I'm saying, is this you right here?
Yes.
Right. To the right of you, do you see a kid or a car?
That's the street.
That's the street, and there's a car there, right?
Yeah.
So there's nobody to the right of you, right? There's a car.
There's nobody in the street.
And there's nobody to the left of you other than Tyler De Silva, right?
Yeah.
So when you're going back in, there's just a wall like this, right?
It's like this.
Right. But you're not surrounded at that point, right?
At that point, no.
No. But you go back in, and Tyler's already pushed out into the street, right?
The video. I'm on my way back as he's.
But Tyler is no longer engaged in the fight, right?
I don't remember.
You don't remember that. So you just blacked out and ran right back into the fold. That's your testimony today?
Being on the yard, and it was just like a shoe horse of people.
A shoe horse, but not a circle. You were not encircled, right?
Like, was there anybody behind me?
Right. There's nobody behind you.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Right. So you could have, if you chose to, which you did not, you could have left. You could have retreated, right?
No.
So you could not have left because there were people around you?
Yes.
So you just said that there was a semicircle of people on the yard. Now you're saying that you were surrounded.
It was like this.
So semicircle, right?
Yeah.
Not a circle. A circle goes like this, right?
Yeah, I wasn't going to turn my back to that many people.
You weren't going to. I'd move to strike as non-responsive, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow the Boston to stand.
You indicated when you made it back to the car, you were still terrified, right?
Yeah.
You were still scared. You came back in anyway, right? With the knife. And you ran over to the edge of the grass, right? And you passed Tyler, right?
Yes.
He passed you on your left, correct?
Yes.
You indicated that you saw Matt Lockovich,
Yes.
but you also indicated on direct you couldn't see who hit you. You said you were hit.
Yes.
You remember saying that? You couldn't see who hit you,
I remember getting hit.
but you don't know who hit you.
I don't think so, no.
Do you recall subsequent during your direct examination you said Matt Lockovich hit me?
I said it could have been him.
Could have been, but you don't know who hit you. And when you were running back into the fight, you had the knife out, right?
Yes.
And people that were in front of you were defending themselves from you, weren't they?
No, they kept coming at me.
They kept coming at you while you had a knife out, approaching them.
I was standing still right there.
You heard Charlie Connery yell, "He's got a knife, he's got a knife," right?
And I just heard screaming. I could have.
At the time, you don't recall hearing that during the incident, right? But on the video, you hear him yell, "He's got a knife, he's got a knife," right? And you're saying that people engaged you while you had a knife at this point in time?
Nobody backed up.
Nobody backed up, but nobody attacked you.
They were stepping forward, and somebody ended up hitting me.
And you couldn't see who hit you.
No.
And you couldn't see if anybody had a weapon on them at that point, right? And at some point, you indicate that you turned around, well, withdrawn. At some point in time, you turned, right, to run back to the car, right?
Yeah.
But when you're turning to run back to the car, you see Jimmy McGrath and you stab him in the chest, correct?
No. I would never do
Have you
that.
seen the autopsy photos, sir?
Yes.
Did you see where his injuries happened?
Yes.
In his upper left chest?
Yes.
Are you saying you did not stab Jimmy McGrath in the heart?
I didn't plan.
Move to strike is non-responsive.
Photo strike, everything after. I'm not sure we got a response, so I will strike the response.
Isn't it true? You just testified that I didn't want to turn my back on these people, right?
Yes.
But you turned your back on these people when you were trying to get out of there, right?
I was facing backwards.
So you were facing backwards. So you're facing the group, and are you backing up like this?
No, I was standing there.
Right.
And
You're not backing up, right?
I got hit.
Right. You're not backing up. And as a matter of fact, this is Jimmy McGrath on the left here, right?
Yes.
And he doesn't have a weapon on him, does he?
Not that
He's not engaging you, is he?
I'm stepping forward.
He's stepping forward,
They all stepped forward.
but he doesn't have a weapon on him, does he?
Not that I saw, no.
And it would be unfair for somebody who doesn't have a weapon to be stabbed by somebody who does, right?
I didn't try to stab anybody.
But you stabbed him, didn't you?
Yes.
You turned around and stabbed Jimmy McGrath in his chest.
No.
So you didn't stab him,
didn't see it happen. I didn't feel me stab. I didn't go up to him and stab him.
Are you saying it was somebody else that stabbed Jimmy McGrath?
I was the only one with a knife.
Correct. You were the only one with the knife. And you turned around and you stabbed Jimmy McGrath in the chest, and then you left, right?
No.
You may be seated. Thank you. At this time, I would direct the defendant, Mr. Valle, to please retake the witness stand. I'll just remind you that you do remain under the obligations of the oath that you took when you went to the witness stand. Thank you. And in the jury. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The jury counsel, please stipulate to the return of our jurors.
State will stipulate, Your Honor.
Defense stipulates, Your Honor.
I will direct the state to continue this examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Lito, after you stabbed Jimmy McGrath on May 14th of 2022, you indicated on direct examination you dove towards the car. You remember that?
Yes.
And then you indicated you got into the front passenger seat of the car, right?
Yes.
And when you got in the front passenger seat of the car at that moment, Tyler DeSilva wasn't in the car at that moment, was he?
No.
Tyler got in a few moments after you, right?
Yes.
And before Tyler DeSilva gets in the car, you tell Jack, "Oh my God, I just stabbed 4 kids," correct?
No. When I first got into the car, he tried to drive off, and I said, "Wait."
So you don't admit to Jack that you stabbed 4 kids.
No.
But you would agree with me that, in hindsight, you did stab 4 kids, right?
I didn't know who I stabbed, or where I stabbed him, or when.
I'm going to ask a very simple question that requires a yes or no answer. You would agree, in hindsight, that you stabbed 4 kids, correct?
I don't know who got stabbed or where they got stabbed.
As you sit here today, you would agree that you stabbed 4 kids, correct?
Yes.
So at some point, Tyler gets in the car, right?
Yes.
And the car is facing, if I may approach the witness, Your Honor. States 1. The car is facing Adams Drive, correct?
Yeah.
And you get in the car and Jack drives straight, correct?
Yes.
And he takes a left down Adams Drive, right?
I'm not sure.
So you were not paying attention as to where you were driving? But at some point in time, very shortly after you getting in the car stops in a cul-de-sac, right?
I don't know where it stopped.
And you get out of the car with the knife and throw it into the woods, correct?
No.
So your testimony today is that you get out of the car, you tell Jack to stop, right?
Yes.
You get out of the car, right?
Yes.
And at that moment, the one thing you were concerned about was looking at your ribs. That was your testimony on direct?
Yeah, I had a very sharp pain on my rib.
You weren't concerned with the fact that you just stabbed 4 kids at that point, right?
I didn't know who got stabbed or where they got
But you
stabbed.
recall stabbing some kids at the party, right?
I was just flailing my arm around.
So you had no idea you stabbed anybody at the house?
No.
You were just flailing back and forth like this, swiping motions.
Everything.
When you got in Jack's car, you didn't call the police at that point, did you?
No.
In fact, after you drove, when you first got to 43 Laurel Glen and you drove down the street, You didn't call the police at that point, right?
No.
And you didn't call the police when you got out of the car down the street at the intersection of Laurel Glen and Farmhouse Lane, correct?
No.
And you didn't call the police just slightly before you went back to 43 Laurel Glen, right?
No.
So at some point you get back in the car after checking your ribs, right? You determined you were okay. There was nothing was going on. You used the light from inside of the car, right? That's your testimony?
Yes.
You get back in the car and you drive back to where Will, Mackenzie, Dimitri, and Keenan were, right?
There was nobody
There was nobody there?
they were in the car.
So Mackenzie's sister was already there.
Yes.
So my point is you drove back to the area where those kids were, your
Yes.
friends, right? And your girlfriend.
Yes.
And at that point, you say to Jack and Tyler, stop the car, right?
Yes.
And you say, I love you guys, I'm going with Kenzie, right?
I don't remember if I said anything. I just remember going and getting in.
And you get out of the car,
Yes.
and they take off. Tyler gets in the front seat. Do you recall Tyler getting in the front seat? They take off, right? Remember seeing them take off?
No.
You don't remember? You just remember you getting in the car and that's it?
And then we drove off, yeah.
Okay. Now you were in Mackenzie's car and you were listening to music.
Yeah.
It was a quiet ride, right? Outside of the music. There was no talking, right?
Keenan talked to me.
Keenan was talking. And when you got into Mackenzie's sister's car, you didn't call the police at that point, right?
No.
Because you were shocked, right? You were shocked at that point?
Still panic and everything.
Panic? And you indicated that you didn't realize you stabbed anybody, but you were still in a panic?
Yeah.
And you indicated that you dropped off Keenan and Dimitri, right?
Yeah.
Mackenzie was still upset. She didn't want to talk to you.
Yes.
And in fact, when they dropped you off in Milford, you asked to talk to Mackenzie, right?
Yes.
And she would not talk to you, right?
Yes.
And you got inside your house,
Yes.
and you got inside your house after midnight, right?
I don't remember the time.
It was late, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree that the video from 36 Laurel Glen has 11:40 when you initially go down the street and about 11:53 when you're taking off and leaving the area for good? Do you recall that?
I'm not sure what time it was.
But it was late, right?
Yeah.
And your mother's packing for Florida.
Yeah.
And your brother's packing for Florida
Yes.
because you had an early flight. And you weren't going at that point, right?
They-
Just prior to coming home, you were not going to Florida?
Yes.
Right. But when you got home, you decided you were going to Florida at that point, right?
When my mom had asked me, yes.
And you had told your mother what had happened, right?
Bits and pieces.
And at that point in time, you didn't call the police.
No.
You didn't tell them your side of the story, right?
Even after, the police never asked me anything.
All right, I've moved to the strike as non-responsive, Your Honor.
I will strike the witness's testimony following the response of no, ladies and gentlemen.
So you didn't call the police that night, right?
No.
As a matter of fact, while Mackenzie is driving home, she engages in a text message with you, right?
Yes.
States 97. Around 12:26 a.m., right? This is when the text messages are going on? You're already home at this point, right?
Yes.
She's driving home at this point, right?
I have no idea.
You texted with each other shortly after her dropping you off, correct?
I don't remember when. I just know I texted with her.
Within how long?
How long what?
How long were you home before you started texting?
I don't know.
You don't recall. But in any event, you talk to your girlfriend, and you tell her, I didn't do anything, I wasn't there, stop texting. You know that was a lie, right?
Yeah, I was just panicking. I didn't know what to say.
States 98. Again, I wasn't there. That was a lie, right? Because you were there, right?
Yeah.
States 99. Don't text me, I'm going to Florida, right?
Yeah.
So at that moment in time, what you thought was important was to go to Florida instead of calling the police, right?
I didn't know what to think.
My question to you is, at that point in time, you decided to go to Florida instead of calling the police, right?
I don't know what I was
Did you call the police in this moment? No, right? So at that point in time, you said, I'm going to Florida, right? And you told Mackenzie that, right?
I texted her, yes.
You didn't say, I'm calling the police, right?
No.
Because you told her you weren't there, right?
I was just freaking out. I didn't really know what to say.
States 100. I can't text anything, I wasn't there. You can't text anything because, why? Because you're afraid of making an admission?
No.
And again, you're saying I wasn't there. That's 3 times you're telling your girlfriend who was with you at the scene that you weren't there. Right?
Yes.
So you go to Florida early the next day with your mother and your brother, right?
Yes.
And you were going to Florida to see your other brother, right?
Yes.
And what was your other brother doing in Florida?
Living
Living? Where was he living?
in Stuart, Florida.
Stewart? And you were down there for a day?
I don't remember how long I was down there.
Do you remember flying home with your mother on Monday night, the 16th of May?
I remember flying home. I don't remember exactly what day it was.
You indicated on direct examination that you found out the severity of what had happened when you were in Florida, right?
Yes.
Now, who did you find that out through?
I can't remember exactly, but one of my friends had texted me.
One of your friends had texted you. And when you found out the severity of what had happened while you were in Florida, you didn't call the police at that point either, did you?
No.
Do you recall the day that you flew home?
No.
Would looking at a document help to refresh your recollection?
Sure.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor? Do you remember to refresh as to when you came home?
Yeah.
When did you come home?
Showed me that at like 7 or 10 p.m.
10 p.m. on the 16th, right? And at some point in time on the 16th, were you aware that there was a warrant for your arrest?
I think at that time, no.
No? And you indicated that the next day you slept late? Were you sleeping to the afternoon?
Yeah. No, I
And
was sleeping, like,
you were sleeping. And at some point you found out that there was a warrant for your arrest, right? But you didn't turn yourself in when you woke up, right?
Yes, I got in the car with my dad and instantly.
Isn't it true you didn't turn yourself in until 4 in the morning on Wednesday, the 18th?
Yeah, it was around that time.
So it wasn't the next day after you got home from Florida, right?
I don't remember when it was.
At some point in time after the incident on May 14th of 2022, Tyler De Silva texts you, or calls you on the phone, rather. Do you remember that?
He never called me.
And you had a conversation with him, right?
He never called me.
And you told him you right?
He never called me. I called him and he never answered.
So on the 18th of May, when you turn yourself in, the police took pictures of you that counsel went through with you, right? And this is a picture, states 34, that's a picture of the front right side of your face, right?
Yes.
No blood, no serious contusions like Ryan Heinz, right?
This was days after.
Days after, so you're a quick healer?
Yes. The pictures of Ryan Heinz were the same day, I think.
States 35. No serious contusions on your face, right? No serious black and blues, right?
No, this is
Right? This was 3 days later, right?
I don't know how many days.
States 36. Got a little bit of a black and blue on your left eye there, right? But nothing huge, right? Right?
Objection, Your Honor. These speak for themselves. He's asking him to give an opinion on medical injury.
Right? You don't have a serious black and blue on your eye, right?
That's not.
States 37. The rear of your head. Can't really see any serious contusions on the back of your head in this picture, right? 4 days later.
I see one.
You see one? Where do you see it?
Left side?
On the left side, right. So we have states 38. We can show that right here. Again, not really that area there. 4 days later. Doesn't really look like the black and blues that Tommy Connery had a month later, right? Doesn't really look like the black and blues that Ryan Heinz had on the side of his body. A few weeks
Objection,
later,
Your Honor.
right?
Asking him to make a comparison between somebody else's injuries and what are in these photos, it's improper.
That's the state of his argument.
And you have a scratch mark, states 40, right? There's a little scratch mark on your right arm.
Yes.
States 42, no real marks on your hands, right?
No.
States 43. Again, no marks on your hands, right? So just to confirm, on May 14th of 2022, you were the only one with a knife at Tyler Rich's house, correct?
No idea.
Did somebody else have a knife at Tyler Rich's house?
Not that I know of.
You didn't see anybody else with a weapon that night, right?
I didn't look for any weapons.
You didn't see any, did you?
I didn't look.
You didn't see any, did you?
No, I didn't look.
There were 4 people that were stabbed that night, right?
Yes.
And those 4 people had 9 stab wounds, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And you're the one responsible for that, correct?
At the time, I didn't know who got stabbed or where they got stabbed or when they got stabbed.
You're the one who was responsible for those stab wounds, correct?
I don't know. I guess so, yes.
No further questions, Ron. Thank you.
Briefly, Your Honor. Mr. Valle, do you remember Mr. Durso asking you about having an interaction with some of the Shelton High kids at the intersection of Laurel Glen and Farmhouse Lane?
Yes.
And we saw a video of a vehicle coming by, and you testified that that's when Mr. Snyder gave you the knife?
They tossed it to me, yes.
And then you saw some of those Shelton High kids come up and approach you, right?
Yes.
And you had the knife then, right?
Yes.
And you got sprayed in the face with WD-40?
Yes.
Why didn't you use the knife then?
I wasn't in fear of my life. I had no reason to use it.
You went back down to 43 Laurel Glen Drive in Jack Snyder's car, right?
Yes.
You had the knife that Jack Snyder had given you at that point, right?
Yes.
You used it then?
No.
You used it when you got down there and you're confronted with those kids and you're on the ground as you've described for us here?
Yes.
Why?
Felt like the only thing that was going to save me.
Nothing further.
Mr. Valle, you had the knife when you were down at the corner of Farmhouse Lane and Laurel Glen, right?
Yes.
And you willingly got back into Jack's car, right?
Yes.
And you went back to Tyler Rich's house, right?
Yes.
And you willingly got out of the car at Tyler Rich's house, correct?
To make peace.
You got out of Tyler Rich's car with the knife, correct?
Yes.
And you walked onto the property at that point, correct?
Yes.
You had no right to be there, correct?
I don't know.
You didn't have an invitation to be on the property, correct?
When we first arrived, it's not like they came and threw us out or anything.
Well, you told us before, sir, that you were scared and panicked for your life when the kids were rocking and throwing things at the car, right?
Yes.
You didn't want to be there in that situation, right?
Yes.
But you went back with a knife to Tyler Rich's house, the very same house that you were in the car, and with things being thrown at where you were panicked and scared, right?
The knife was already in my pocket.
Right.
Yes.
But you went back to that house where you said you were panicked and scared in the car minutes before when they were rocking and throwing things at the car, correct? And you got out of that car with the knife to go confront those kids, right?
I didn't go and confront them because I...
But you got out of the car with the knife, right? And you walked on the property.
Yes.
No further questions.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Please get to step as the one. Does the defense intend to call any additional witnesses?
The defense does not, Your Honor. The defense would rest.
The state intends to please
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Certainly.
Your Honor, state has no further witnesses. State rest.
All right. So no rebuttal.
Your Honor, at some point may the jury be excused for legal arguments.
Certainly. All right. At this point in time, I am actually going to, I should send the jury home. Do you want me to send the jury home at this point? Or?
That's fine.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, so the court is going to release the jury for today, okay? So I just want to remind you that we are at the part of the trial where you have heard all of the evidence that you're going to hear in this case. However, you've not yet heard closing arguments. You've not yet heard the instructions regarding the law that you're to apply to the facts you find in this case. As such, as in my prior instruction to you on your oath, you're not at a point where you can discuss this case with anyone, including each other. So you're not at that point yet, despite the fact that you've heard all the evidence. So it may seem natural that you are at the phase where you can talk about this with your fellow jurors, but you cannot, all right? So you need to continue to abide by that instruction until such time that I tell you that you are able to go ahead and conduct your deliberations. So we are going to adjourn with respect to the jury right now for the day. You are able to leave. Again, we will not be having court on this matter tomorrow and next to you on July 3rd, at which time I would anticipate closing arguments and the instructions, and then thereafter deliberations by you, the jury. Okay, so please, again, remember not to discuss the case with anyone. Do not take in any information about this case. Try to avoid the media as best as you can. There is a lot of media attention on this case that includes social media and news coverage. So if you can please avoid those, or would much appreciate it so that we don't have to deal with any conflicts when you come back. Also, again, there have been locations that have been discussed. Do not do any drive-bys. Do not look up any locations via any other type of mapping device. And last but not least, please do not conduct your own independent research or investigation into this case, because you are going to be instructed to decide this case based solely on the evidence presented here in this courtroom. With that, have a good afternoon, have a good day tomorrow, and we will see you back on Thursday. Thank you so much for your continued attention. Attorney Smith, you wanted to present legal argument.
Yes, Your Honor. At this point, we would move for a motion of judgment of acquittal under Practice Book 42-42. The state's evidence has closed. We made our motion at that time. We've now heard from Mr. Valle, and I would renew my motion, and I would direct the court to the cases of State versus Carpenter, 214 Con 77. It's a 1992 case, and State versus Thomas, 210 Con 199, a 1989 case. And the standard here is well known to the court. This is to be viewed in the light most favorable to the state. But even when viewing that light, viewed in that light, this evidence is insufficient for this jury or any jury to find beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Valle had the specific intent to murder anyone, that Mr. Valle had the specific intent to assault Tommy Connery or to assault Ryan Heinz, and more so even with regard to Mr. Faison Teal, which is the assault in the second-degree charge. The evidence as to Mr. Teal, candidly, is we heard the least about it. We really don't have any indication of what the mechanism was. Mr. Teal couldn't be sure how he got cut or what exactly it was that cut him. And we haven't heard any evidence of anybody viewing that happening. And so it has to be simply an inference that a juror would draw that in the course of this brawl and this chaotic scene, that somehow Mr. Valle cut Mr. Teal. I would submit that that is an inference that is unreasonable to draw on this evidence that we have before us. Specific intent is not simply general intent. So the fact that Mr. Valle has testified here that he was flailing around with the knife trying to defend himself is not sufficient to show the specific intent to stab Tommy Connery, the specific intent to stab Faison Teal, or the specific intent to stab Ryan Heinz, or the specific intent to stab Jimmy McGrath. As to the other elements, candidly, we have conceded those elements by raising a self-defense claim. That doesn't, however, mean that the state prevails, even when you view this evidence in the light most favorable to the state. That they have shown beyond a reasonable doubt for these fact finders that Mr. Valle possessed the specific intent to murder or to assault any of the injured in this case. Consequences are tragic, but it simply doesn't tip the scales any further and allow this jury or any other jury to find, again, that the state has proven specific intent. The evidence there is equivocal at best, but in no way does it reach that highest standard and overcome it. We would ask the court to grant the motion for judgment of acquittal as to all the charges.
Attorney Joseph.
Your Honor, thank you. I would just first start by saying the defendant has testified and is now subject to the same credibility instruction that every other witness is subject to when you charge the jury. The jury is free to believe all, some, or none of the defendant's testimony, and that's up to the jury. I would submit that there are a lot of inconsistencies in the defendant's testimony, and I would submit that the defendant was caught in a lie multiple times in his testimony. And I would submit that that would have an impact on this jury. With regards to the defendant's specific intent, should the jury believe that the defendant went back there with a knife, his intent was purposeful, and that he took that knife out of his right pocket, opened it up, and started stabbing the people that were before him. There was evidence that Faison Teal, Ryan Heinz, and Tommy Connery were in the vicinity of where Mr. Valle was. He stabbed Ryan Heinz and Faison Teal first. They were stab wounds, not slashes. So the jury can infer from the circumstantial evidence from Faison Teal that his wound was a stab wound, purposeful, not slash. There was some testimony from doctors with regards to that. The jury could also view Mr. Heinz's evidence that he was stabbed purposefully this way, not a slash wound or flailing around. The jury can infer the defendant's intent from that. With regards to Tommy Connery, there was evidence that the defendant was down almost on one knee, that he purposefully went at Tommy Connery and stabbed him 4 times in the leg. And with regards to Jimmy, after he came back from the car, when Mr. De Silva was no longer in harm's way, he turned right at Jimmy and purposefully went at him and stabbed him in the heart. Didn't slash him, stabbed him. I would submit that the jury's going to get an instruction that intent can be formed in an instant. And they could also infer from the circumstantial evidence, should they not believe the defendant's testimony, that the number of wounds inflicted, the area of the bodies where the wounds were inflicted, all points to the specific intent of the defendant on May 14th of 2022. So I think when you view all the evidence in the light most favorable to the state, Your Honor, I think the defendant's argument fails, and I would ask you to deny it at this point.
So this motion being made at the close of evidence in accordance with our rules of practice, the court is going to take the motion under consideration and defer a decision until the jury returns its verdict. So again, there won't be any court proceedings tomorrow on this particular matter, and we will see everyone back on Thursday, July 3rd. I would instruct counsel, please, at some point, just to touch base with me for an informal charging conference. I intend to be on the record on July 3rd. In the morning, we'll start with the formal charging conference on the record, at which point in time thereafter we'll move to closing arguments, and then the court will charge the jury. Okay.
Very good, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court stands adjourned.
All rise.